You're listening to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Way we go. We are back. Welcome back to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast. It's the only one that brings the Firehouse kitchen table to you. Self-proclaimed, of course, self-proclaimed, I said, best podcast in the whole wide world because I said so.
I mean, do we have to self-proclaim it?
I mean, how many times do we have to say that every show?
Until everybody believes it. That's it. Until everybody's buying it.
Do we brainwash everybody?
Till we start getting Joe Rogan money, and then we'll stop saying it.
That's no problem. Joe Rogan, easy.
We're almost there.
I don't know about that. Yeah,
right around the corner. As soon as we get every firefighter in America to sign up.
Well, we keep getting guests like the one we got tonight, and maybe we will.
Ooh, yeah, man. You know, remember when I told you guys that I was all puckered up when Chief Kill Dove came on? Mm-hmm. I'm a little more nervous this time. I got to be honest with you. I've been in the room with some heavy hitters myself, and my hands are sweating. My hand, is that normal?
We can only go. We're just going to start crashing right now. It's going straight down.
About sweaty hands. You can only go up from here. We're at the bottom right now with Pete with his sweaty hands.
It's going to be a good one. Do we want to do some housekeeping first?
Yes, let's get all the housekeeping out of the way.
All right. Well, you know what? We have to honor our sponsors who pay us good money to be on the show and to get a moment of your time. So, ladies and gentlemen, New Jersey Fire Equipment. Established in 1930 and under the current ownership since 1987, the New Jersey Fire Equipment Company handles a complete line of fire department equipment and supplies. Headquartered in Greenbrook, the company operates full 3M Scott service facilities in Ridgefield Park and Toms River, staffed by 10 fully authorized Scott certified technicians with a fleet of 6 fully equipped service vans. All New Jersey fire technicians and sales representatives are active or retired firefighters, officers or chief officers, career and volunteer. They understand the business and the importance of their work. New Jersey Fire has represented Scott since Earl Scott entered the SCBA business at the end of World War II. Among other leading manufacturers represented by New Jersey Fire are Globe and Firedex Turnout Gear, Mercedes Hose, Task Force Tips and Akron Brass, Hygenol, Fire Hooks, Arctic Compressors, MSA Carnes Helmets, ChemGuard Foam, Alkalite and Duo Safety Ladders, BA Face Shield Protectors, Truckman's Choice Saws, Grove's Gear Racks and Washer Dryers, Supervac Fans, RPI, Streamlight, and many others. A New Jersey incorporated and based company, sales and service are limited to the state of New Jersey. Find us now at www.njfe.com. That's www.njfe.com.
Ooh. Nice. How does this? I want to be the guy that's from Scott. This was his look. Right? Wasn't that his look? That was his look. Yeah.
You mean Earl Scott?
Did you take out that pipe just for that little?
Yeah, I've been sitting on my desk forever. I keep forgetting to do that one.
Earl Scott.
Just for the joke. You did it.
Yeah, just for the joke.
Oh my gosh. Well, guys, also really quickly before we get rolling here, and we will get rolling in a moment, don't forget, we're over on GettinSaltyApparel.com, where you will find the coolest, freshest, most awesome firefighter apparel and accessories in the game. GettinSaltyApparel.com, where you guys can get all of the best gifts for your family and friends who are firefighters or not. Just check us out there. And also, guys, in the super chat, if you guys want to throw us a few shekels in there, if you absolutely positively have a question you'd like to ask the commissioner tonight, please do. Let's keep it on topic. And if you want to throw us a few shekels, we appreciate it, man. Super chat. Thank you to everyone.
Nice job, Pete.
Yeah, man.
Now, Ruffy hit me with a fact today, Ruffy, about the one of 6 men, right?
He is one of 6.
Right. So I'm going to let you introduce him then. Introduce our guest tonight, because Ruffy hit me with that one. I almost got bowled over with that fact.
One of 6 men in history that has held every title in the FDNY.
Wow.
Yeah, we got him. And he's on the show.
Dan Nigro.
There he is.
Hey.
There he is.
One of 6.
One of 6. Welcome to the show, Chief. Appreciate you coming on. Or Commissioner. I asked you earlier what you prefer to call it. You said Chief would be easier, right?
I like the Chief better.
Yeah.
Chief.
Good to be here. Why not?
Yeah.
Wing it, man. Wing it.
Wing
You're
it.
gonna get down and
man,
dirty.
Why not?
Yeah. Well, let's before we get going, Pete, we got to do our patriotic duty before Susie
Absolutely.
screams anymore in the chat. Let's do our patriotic thing.
All right, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. We got to hire that guy. I don't know who does that voice. He's really good. Well, Chief, welcome to the show. We really appreciate you coming on. I'm sure you've heard about us. I don't know if you've seen any of the shows, but we're going to start out with your early life. I know your dad, you said, I believe, was a firefighter, correct?
He was. He came back from the Pacific after World War II, and he joined the fire department right away. And he and I served the same from 69 to 77 when he retired. We overlapped that period. So the fire department was part of my life from the day I was born.
Where did your dad work? Where was he at? What year did he get on?
He started out in Ladder 6, and in 1952 he was a pilot. And 1952 he got called back, and he was over in Korea flying B-26s. He came back in Ladder 116. He was a lieutenant in Engine 316, and he retired out of Engine 313 out in Douglas.
How many years did he do total? 50. It was from 50 something to 70 something.
And retired in 1977.
So, needless to say, we know where you got the influence as to why you wanted to be a fireman.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Bayside. You know, there was 200 houses built in 1949 by the UFA and the PBA. There was a housing shortage after the war. My father and a few other firefighters from Ladder 6, along with other police officers and firefighters. I grew up in a neighborhood. I thought that was the only job you could have. Years, you know, anybody I met was either a cop or a firefighter, and it's kind of avoid. So all my friends, you know, most of them followed their fathers into either the police department or fire department.
Any other brothers on the job, or was it just you?
Just me. I have a sister, and ended up her son came on the job, my nephew Adam, who recently retired, and her daughter, of course, married a firefighter who's still active, 50 engine. And I think all my nieces and nephews ended up on the job, and my daughter's married members of the department. So it's truly a family business here.
It is certainly a family affair, correct? So you get appointed in 69, correct, to Engine 21?
69, 7 decades. How about that?
Wow.
You're a 7-decade guy. Look at that.
We're all a part of 7 decades in a department. It's like a trivia question.
All right, you want to do trivia questions? Which decade did you like the most then?
Which decade? Probably the 70s, when I was a young firefighter and a young lieutenant, and still able to get it done. You know, when I dream of being in the department, I dream that a firefighter, not fire commissioner, that's for sure.
I was going to say, did you ever even think as you were going, like things were happening, that you were going to be in that position? Like we asked Chief Kilduff the same thing. Like, did you ever, like, when do you pinch yourself and say, how is this happening? Like,
you know, my father was a captain. So when I came on, I did have a desire to make captain, figuring, well, you know, the family will think, my father, I better achieve that rank, which I did, you know, fairly soon. And I think once you do well on those early exams, the other ones kind of come naturally, and it just happens. Yeah,
I mean, Louis threw out that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Louis threw out that little tidbit about only one of 6 guys. I'm assuming. Did you know that though? That you were only one of 6 guys?
I did. And I think I'm the only one that had a break in service. Sal before me, Sal Casano, who was a probie with me in '69, he went from chief of department, and I think the other ones also, if I recall, John O'Hagan was the last one before Sal. All were still active when they. I was retired for 11 years when I came back in 2014, so I had quite a extended vacation.
So you're like the unicorn. You're the you're one of a kind.
Unicorn is okay, yeah. And so
Unicorn. Oh goodness.
So 69 in 21 engine. You spent a little time there. You catch any work over at 21?
Well, it was not. Talk about the war years. East 40th Street in Manhattan was part of that era, so to speak. But the company, being surrounded by other engines, was relocating to every job in the Lower East Side or up in Harlem. So we caught work, and we caught some work in Midtown. Interesting work is what you get there for sure. Grand Central Station, high-rise buildings, etc. But we moved around the city a lot in those days, and everybody was busy, and got to see a lot of different firehouses. And matter of fact, we relocated the night of the phone company fire. We were at 5 Engine, was first due engine. We spent the night down there, and what a horrendous experience that was.
Yeah. You were telling Louis that you guys were at the 23rd Street fire, correct?
Yeah, I went to college at Baruch College on 23rd and Lex, and I got up early in the morning and heard about this terrible fire. Rushed down there and stood in Madison Square Park to see a firefighters. You might have seen some pictures, and as they took out one of the brothers, helmets came off. It was, just a terrible situation. But just being there and being part of it. And a few days later, I went and stood on Fifth Avenue when I think they buried 10 of our members out of 9 out of St. Patrick's and 1 out of St. Thomas in the same day. Thousands of members and members from around the country standing there at this mass funeral. And who would have ever thought that wouldn't have been the worst day in fire department history?
Yeah. See, so you got something in common with me and Louis. We went to Baruch too. See that?
Well, I see it produces great men.
We might not have finished like you did, but we started it. So you start this. Pete, before we go any further, I'm sorry. We didn't do the word of the day. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. All good. A lot of people in the chat were wondering if we would have such a thing with such a high level guest, but of course,
I don't know if you noticed. I actually have a college shirt on.
We'll bring him right down. Right?
Yeah, we'll bring him right down. Ruin his
first college shirt on Coobs in a podcast.
Well,
just let them know.
Well, I appreciate that. Yes.
Well, the chief here said, absolutely, I'm willing to play along. So, ladies and gentlemen, the word of the day is the commish.
Oh my goodness.
The commish, not commissioner.
He's got Scott McCallum.
Oh, he's a Scotch guy.
McCallum.
Nice.
All right. So 1977, you decide to you get promoted. You start to study and you get promoted and you go to Engine 35. Am I correct with that?
Engine 35 up in East Harlem with Ladder 14, 12th Battalion. Busy times. Great firefighters. Learned a lot from a lot of folks up there. Reggie Julius was my official mentor. He was a battalion chief at the time in the 12th. So I bounced around a while, and then I got the spot in 35 Engine. And I really enjoyed being a part of that and being a part of that firehouse. I enjoyed every firehouse I ever went to, and everybody in those firehouses. You learn from everyone, and you enjoy their stories, their particular personalities. You're always, maybe happy to get promoted, but sorry to leave a happy home.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
But they were catching some work up there back in 14
Plenty of work, and like I say, I did a lot of, used to work opposite a guy in 14 truck. The captain who worked opposite me didn't want to work 24, so I would work one half in the engine and one half in 14.
Wow, that's nice.
That was kind of a nice,
Oh
nice
my God, that's perfect.
while until the captain caught on and said, I think I will work 24.
Hey, Chief, wasn't like 36 right around the corner? Wasn't those two firehouses were right next to each other, or like right around?
36 engine was in 14 trucks old quarters. They've since closed them down. They were, I even go back further. When 35 was by themselves on 119th Street, 36 was up on Park Avenue and 126. The firehouse for 35 and 14. They moved the truck and they moved, for some reason, they moved 36 out of their quarters into 14's quarters. And that's probably the two closest.
Yeah, we're very close, right? It seemed weird that they were so close to each other. I guess there was enough work there for everybody to do.
There was plenty of work for everyone in those days, yes.
How do they disperse the first two boxes if you're right around the corner from each other?
Yeah, it was, most of our first two boxes were south and east, and people respected, was trying to beat anybody in, if you were first two, and it was close.
Imagine if 290 was in that firehouse, Coop.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Things are a little different.
Yeah, sure, no doubt. So going from, I would say, 21 was sort of like Midtown up to the ghetto. Was it at all a culture shock for you, or you got you knew what you were in for?
But like I said before, having relocated so often, 21 engine, a tour practically wouldn't go by when there wasn't at least one relocation.
Wow. Either
up or down in Manhattan to one of these jobs. Lower East Side was really banging out in those days. 28 engine, 533. Those companies were doing a lot of work in Avenue A, B, below 14th Street, and up above 91, 35. We'd be up there all the time. So I'm certainly familiar with it, but it was a different world in 21 engine than the posh East Side of Manhattan. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, when I say it all the time when I first got on the job, but my brother told me my father was in 17 engine. I had no idea how much work they were doing back then on the Lower East Side.
Yeah, it was a very rough area. It was very big on drugs, and a lot of vacant buildings, and all those companies did more than their share of work each and every tour. And now it's gentrified somewhat, and it's pretty much a different world down there.
Yeah, no doubt.
Couldn't afford to live there now.
Yeah, that's for sure. I wanted to ask you, Chief, through your whole time, I didn't ask this to, I wanted to ask this to Duff, but I forgot, but it probably pertains to you even so. Did anybody looking back at your career, look at you and say, like, this kid's going to go far. This guy's going to go, this guy's going to be chief of department someday. Did anybody say that to you?
Well, I don't know about chief of department, but I think people, I did very well in exams. I was into the job. I was a good student. So I think people realized if I wanted to, I would move ahead pretty rapidly. So I did. And the higher up you get, the more maybe people feel you have a shot at something. Perhaps not chief of department, but
that's aiming a little high. Fucking chief of department, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Do you ever think to yourself that someday, you could be chief of department?
Well, I guess the higher up I got, the more, once you hit deputy chief, it's kind of a rank. There's not too many people up there. And I was an ambitious guy, and I certainly didn't think it was out of the realm of possibility.
Pete, you got a question from the super chat?
Yeah, I do. Carl in the super chat's asking, Chief, do you not to backtrack, but do you remember your first job?
Yeah, I do. Thankfully, the first night I worked, we had a job in a tenement on 3rd Avenue, pretty much around the corner on 39th and 3rd. I think it was on the 2nd floor above a store. And I got that under my belt right away. It was not a terribly difficult job, but it was a structural fire. We at that time we were using 2.5-inch line, got the line up, and I was somewhere in position. I certainly didn't have the nozzle, but we got in there and put the fire out. And so I know some people waited a very long time. Depending on where you were, you might have got a job the first minute you entered the firehouse.
No doubt.
Waited weeks for their first real fire.
Right.
Wait very long. So that one stuck in my. Not too many fires have stuck in my head, especially since 9/11. I think that kind of erased a lot of memory, but that one still stuck in my head.
Yeah, your first job always sticks to you, no doubt about it.
Yeah, my brother always said to me, my brother's a deputy now. He's just getting out. He always said to me that I hope the first job you get is a job that's a reasonable job and not a job that scares the living crap out of you. Where, where you say, "What am I doing here?" You know. So that's what I remember him telling me all the time. Before I caught my first job.
Kind of job I had. It was a good job, but it was not like what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
I did one of those fairly soon after down in Grand. That we have to go down into that, and the lieutenant got the arm and said, "Let's go." There
was it a triple subcellar, Chief?
Louis loves those.
Well, those, going down in Grand Central Station, it had about 7 different levels, so you didn't know how far down you were going, and it could get a little nasty.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking, Chief, what do you miss the most about being a firefighter or being a commissioner?
Well, right now I'm missing being the commissioner because I miss the people that I worked with. Every day I had a routine. You went in, people I'd be very close with, and now, once in a while we'll talk on the phone or by text. Being a firefighter is a whole nother experience, and I don't have anything left in the tank to actually do that. This day as chief of department, I actually worked in 123 as the irons man. Someone asked me if I was going to do that again. I said, no, that was 20 years ago. I'm not doing that again. No, I went and had lunch at 21 Engine. That's what I did.
Nice.
Now, we talked about your one son-in-law, Tim, who I know is getting ready to be made, deputy chief. Do you talk to him about, aspiring or possibly going, where you went, or, are you more like a mentor to him at all? Or how's that relationship?
I hope so. We have the Sunday, and people say it's like the fire department equivalent of Blue Bloods. It used to be my father, who lived to be almost 95, would be there, and Timmy and Larry and myself, and of course, conversation was fire department all the time. Timmy is, extraordinarily good at what he does. I have no doubt that I don't even advise him on that. I have no doubt he'll go as high as he wants to go, because he's that kind of guy, and I think everyone tells me the same thing, that he's got the respect of those below him, above him, and that's quite an accomplishment in this job. So if he wants advice, I'll give it to him, but I don't think he needs it. He's an extraordinary guy.
And your other son-in-law is a firefighter in Rescue 2, correct?
Yeah, Larry is tough as nails. He's in Rescue 2. He loves it. I don't think you could pry him out of there with until they drag him out the door. I think that's what he always wanted to be, and that's where he is. So he's very happy, and it's a good place for him. And we're lucky to have people like that want to do these things, and the department has no shortage of them.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, right? Really, I told you if I got there, I would never want to leave there.
No, you wouldn't. Busiest place
Okay.
on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Chief, you did your whole career. I didn't look at your timeline all the way through, but most of your time was in Manhattan, correct?
Yeah, like a lot of people, you become like a homing pigeon. And I went to school in Manhattan. I started working in Manhattan, and I was familiar and comfortable there. And a lot of folks were not to be there. So I was covering out in Queens as a captain, and I said, I asked the deputy in the 3rd Division if there was a spot opening up, and I got 8 engine. I was happy to be back in familiar territory. So, and then, Battalion Chief, I wanted the 10th Battalion, and someone else got it. They came out of headquarters and got the spot out of nowhere. So I said, well, maybe I'll do that. So as a Battalion Chief, I went to headquarters for a while. And I knew I was going to be a deputy at some point. I better get back in the field. I went out. I never worked in Brooklyn, so I went to the 2-8 Battalion for a couple of years before I got promoted to deputy.
Good place to go to get some fire duty. 2-8.
At that time, they were busy, and they're still busy. I met some great people, and that's where really I became friendly with Pete Ganci and Steve Maciello. And had it not been for that move that Bill Sheehan recommended to me, another mentor I had, I would never have gotten close with them as I did. Both of them, one died 9/11 and one died post 9/11.
Petey, we have a picture of the chief with Chief Ganci and
I do. Stand by.
I was going to ask you that, Chief. When you were, well, let's say a lieutenant or captain, were there chiefs that you knew you were studying, you knew you were moving? What chiefs do you remember that you tried to take some of their style, if that's the term?
I guess there were plenty. Some of them, it's like anything else. There are officers you want to be like, and some you don't want to be like. So you learn from both. Early on, when I went to 21 Engine, all 4 battalion chiefs they said Article 1 means they were appointed to the department in the 1930s. Wow. And I couldn't believe it, and they were retiring, and Chief Lally, who I worked with the most, he was retiring after 35 years. They got full pay. I thought that was so great, oh, Chief, and he had tears in his eyes when he came to the fires. He said, I'd rather be you, just starting out, and I didn't understand it at the time. I certainly did later in life. But these people had experience, and they did the job as you should. As they said, I went up. They had a system then when you were assigned to a battalion chief, and as a lieutenant, a young lieutenant, and Reginald Julius was my mentor. Great fire officer, good person. I learned a lot from him. Vinnie Dunn, I think everybody on the job has learned from Vinnie Dunn over the years. He went up the ladder pretty quick. I think when I was lieutenant up in Harlem, Vinnie was a deputy in the Bronx. He would come down and talk about collapses, and he was just a wealth of information. He still is. And then when I was in Midtown, Vinnie was over in the 3rd Division. So all of these folks that you learn from. Donald Burns later on when I was in headquarters, he just was a wealth of information. Bill Feehan. Try to take a piece out of each and every one of them and be a composite of the best parts of these folks. Pete Ganci included. He's just set the bar very high for chiefs of department that followed him.
No doubt about that.
If you could look back at as far as responding to fires all the way up to deputy, what position as an officer did you like the best?
Wow. Which fires really is the same role, other than if the chief didn't know you and they saw captain, you would get a little more respect. But that was the bread and butter of the whole job, was going to operations and at least being in charge of your own crew. And being a battalion chief was a whole different thing. Chiefs now are more in the building than we were back then. I would have to say, you rarely saw chiefs taking the beatings they take today. Back when I was battalion chief, it just it didn't happen. But the responsibility exploded really. Instead of being in charge of that line or you were in front of the building and you were responsible for every person that entered and every occupant of the building, and that's a responsibility that chiefs have that many people don't realize how difficult that is and what a toll it takes on them every tour. It's an awesome responsibility.
Yeah, it certainly is. Like, as a firefighter and special ops in the squad, I had a totally different outlook as to when my last year in my career, when I went to drive my brother, who was a deputy. And I got to see that when you're a firefighter, you want to keep pushing. But when you're on the outside looking in and you see the vast responsibility that the chief has for every single life that's there, every single guy on the scene, civilians, it puts things into perspective. So next time the chief says he wants everybody out, you think to yourself, he has a good reason for that. That's why I think that every fireman should take at least a month detail to drive a chief to see what it's like from looking at a fire from outside in.
I did that. We had a captain in 21 Engjne who got promoted to chief, and he went over to the 4-5 in Queens. And just after I had passed the lieutenant's test with a very high mark, said, I'd like you to come over and drive me. And I said, well, maybe that's a good idea to get like a different viewpoint of the job. And it was eye-opening, what from the outside. From the inside, the chief says, get out, and you go, well, we got it, But you have the 4 floors above you.
Yeah.
You don't see that. And it gave me a good perspective that I never would have gotten had he not asked me to come over there and drive for a few months. And I think it was very worthwhile. I think what you say is a good idea for people, although many of the members would probably cause chiefs to pull their hair out if they,
Given the report.
Yeah.
But driving the chief, but many people.
Yeah.
First job I had with the chief, I gave the 1075, and the chief said 2 minutes later, we're using 2 and 2. And, well, chief, I think it's an all hands right now.
I already dumped the box.
I learned not to pull the trigger too, but told me to.
We have one question coming in from the super chat here from Dave Port. He's asking, how did you know, Chief, when you were ready to promote from rank to rank?
Well, it's really the system. You better be ready. You take a test and you get a mark, and if you're high enough up there on the list, your name will get called. So you prepare yourself for the next step in your career somehow. Many people go, if they're in the engine, they might transfer to a truck for a while to get that experience that they never had. I said I went to the battalion for a little while, and you try to get your mindset in that next thing you'll be doing. And when I got promoted to lieutenant, we didn't have the school that they have now. So, I got promoted on a Friday. Saturday morning, I was in, where was I? 95 Engjne on Vermilion Avenue. One day I was a firefighter, the next day I was a lieutenant, and the school was 0.
Oh, shit.
We didn't have flips. We didn't have anything. So you had to just prepare yourself in a way, and
hang on, kid.
Did okay.
Yeah, Chief, did you have the same study group from test to test?
I had no study group until, I guess I would be no good for it, because I was in a study group for chief, and I was the only one promoted in the study.
All-star.
The other members were doing, but I guess they weren't studying when we weren't at the study group.
No shit.
I don't think we guys I don't think guys realize the amount of material. Like I only saw it. I'm sure Louis knows because he became a lieutenant. But from watching my brother go from rank to rank up to deputy, the amount of material and the amount of hours that need to be put in, because he was a guy like you, Chief. He wanted to be top of the list every single time. So you're talking about anywhere from 10, 12 hours a day studying. He used to put himself in a room, put earmuffs on, and study for 10 to 12 hours a day. And I don't think guys realize the commitment that it takes to go from test to test.
No, my father told me, I was going to college. I got a college degree, and at the time, not too many members of the department did that. And I think he could see that maybe I thought it was going to be easy. And he said, there's a lot of competition, and people study very hard for these tests. Don't think you're just going to walk in like you did in high school or college and get a C and get promoted, because that doesn't work that way. So he put kind of the fear of God into me. And studying for lieutenant, I was a young guy. I didn't have any children yet. My wife was working, so I would study all day. I didn't have a second job. I'd just sit there and study all day until my wife got home, and it certainly paid off. And I think if you do well early on in these tests, the other ones kind of fall into place.
I was just going to say that, Chief. The first one, obviously, it sets, gives you the base or the foundation, and then you just keep adding to that, one after the next, I would imagine.
Well,
you there, Kobe Coops?
Yeah, I checked out for a second.
Oh.
So in Engine 8, you're in there with Ladder 2, right? And then 86, you get promoted to Battalion Chief, Battalion 19. And then, like you said, you did headquarters from 88 to 91. What'd you do down in headquarters? Anything interesting?
It was interesting. I was up in the Bronx, covering in various battalions. 19th Battalion was a super active place up at the firehouse on Jerome Avenue. Of course, I said before, I'm a bit of a homing pigeon. I got myself back into Manhattan, and I was covering in a 10th Battalion. Didn't get the spot, so I decided to take a job in headquarters. I was working for a deputy commissioner first. Then I became chief of personnel. And then I became chief of health services when they were over on Lafayette Street. But Al Turi was working with me, became a battalion chief. He ended up as chief of safety when he retired after 9/11. So we made a good team there, and years go by. I enjoyed those details. You learned a lot of different things. You said you get a different perspective when you're driving. When you take an administrative job, it's a little different. The schedule's different. You're not in a firehouse anymore. But you learn a lot of things about the department that you never would have known. These things that you take for granted, or that you have the easy answer to in the firehouse kitchen. We always have, why don't they do this? And you realize, sometimes they try to do this, but you can't always, as the Rolling Stones said, don't always get what you want, and it was a very good learning experience those years. And I learned from some good people and went back out in the field.
And you got promoted division deputy chief in 93. Is that what this is? 93?
93. And I was assigned to Division 3. And I didn't have a spot. I had never had a spot as a deputy. I was covering. I ended up, Bill Feehan asked me to do a project at headquarters. And lo and behold, I got asked to get involved in the CFR program prior to the merger, and got that underway and worked very hard on the merger. So I got promoted by Safer to the chief in a very short time, probably because I was willing to take a job that I don't think anybody else really wanted, that job of trying to move the department into this area of medical responses. It was not a very popular thing.
That's what I was going to ask you, Chief. What was that like? What were you guys discussing? What were you guys How was that working out? Like,
I'll say it was extremely difficult because majority of the members were really not into it. Didn't understand why might have benefited the department. From the day I come in, they were shutting companies. I remember there was an engine over on the west side, Engine 2. The firehouse, Rescue 1's used in their firehouse now. They closed them in maybe 1972. There was a series of closings. Every couple of years, there would be, we're going to cut the fire department. We're going to cut the fire department. And I think we needed to move in this direction, and we did. We got it done. We trained everyone. I would say there's very few people on the job now who were pre-CFR. When you think about it, the merger took place 20 years ago.
95, I think. I was the first class to come out. I was the first Proby class to be taught CFRD.
CFR was 94, 95. So you'd be an old timer to have been in the department before we were responding to medical calls. It all worked out, but it was the logistics of it. It was maybe that prepared me to be commissioner. It was 24/7, and it never left your head as to how are we going to do this? How are we going to respond to medical calls and still be available for fires? What if this happens? What if all the engines are in medical calls?
right.
And how do we do this? And
I think if I remember right, Brooklyn came on
First.
first,
Yep.
right? And then that was
right. We did it division by division. Liz Cassio, who's still in the department now, she was my XO and then chief of staff. Liz was a young instructor that really helped us get all of our members trained, and she was really unbelievable. And we stayed friends. So when I was coming back to the department, she was about to retire, and I said, "Why don't you stay around?
Hold on a minute."
I'll make you the first EMS, first woman XO to the commissioner." She's quite an asset. She's terrific.
I believe she was there when she trained me. And
I'm sure she
first.
Yeah. She's, it was not popular with her folks in EMS, and it was not popular with our members. So she was pretty tough to being able to do that, and she did.
that's what I was going to ask you, Chief. I mean, when I got on in 93, and then I think 94, 95, we got the turnout gear, right? Everybody was against it. And then we went to EMS probably the year after that, and everybody was against it. And then we went from the 24 group chart to the 25 group chart, right? And they lost a mini vacation. And it was, I would just remember every year, it was just more bedlam. And I just remember saying to myself, like, just similar to what you just said, the firehouse kitchen, right? Is anybody up there understanding what's going on from a fireman's view? Like, did they lose touch, right? You hear that all the time, right? We want to ask these questions, right? So is any thought put into what the guys think or what the girls think, whatever it is, the fire department thinks? Or is it you guys get up there, you take a little bit into consideration, but in the end, it's the betterment of the job, and that's it. That's what you're thinking.
Well, I think the betterment of the job is the bottom line, but none of us forget where we came from. I mean, the perfect example, you had Ed Kilduff last week. There's no way in the world anybody could think that Ed, Ed is a consummate firefighter, fire officer. He gets it. We all get it. We all fought everything. Going back, when I came on, we rode the back step. When they said you couldn't ride the back step, we thought it was ridiculous. It's going to slow us down. The hose stretch, if you're not on the back step. Wearing masks, we fought that.
Right.
Especially first due, you can't put a mask on. You don't have time. All of these things, there were reasons why we believed we were right about it, and I understand it. And same thing with the medical calls. Hey, we're firefighters. What are we doing in medical calls? We're firefighters. Um, I got it when I was, trying to preach that we should do it. I still believe we did the right thing. But, the bottom line is if you're in a leadership position, you have to have a mission, a viewpoint of where to go. If you can't do it, then you shouldn't be there. It's pretty bad if you have leaders that are just doing things because, a lot of people think things I did, well, that's the mayor. And the mayor very rarely dictated anything to me. He didn't. And maybe previous mayors were a little more hands-on. Maybe this mayor will be, I don't know. But you have a belief in something and you try to convince people. You can't convince everyone, but sometimes they come around after 20 years or so. And that's it. And if they don't, they survive. And we always say it's a great job until 6 months after you get out of probie school, and then it's this job sucks. People move, they move 3,000 miles to get the job. They give up a career on Wall Street, and 6 months later, they're in the kitchen saying, "This job sucks." But
it's the fucking truth.
It's okay. It's the fact that people have their opinions and they're strongly held.
We say all the time, Chief, right, Fireman? What do they say, Coops? We don't like change, but we don't like the way things are right now, right?
Yeah.
It's just a common thing,
Yeah.
right?
Listen, I've taken heat for saying this before, but as a guy who lived in this city and seeing that, you could see the handwriting on the wall. Fire duty was down, and we needed to do something. And honestly, medical calls and CFRD runs, you save a lot of lives doing that. And I got to tell you, I lived in Queens, and my father, who was a fireman, had a heart attack in my kitchen, and the first people that responded was Engine 291 because they got there quick before EMS. So if we need to up our production and it's for the betterment of the city and we're actually saving lives, I mean, you can go down to when I was on, you go down to Fort Dot and you see all the pre-hospital saves. Those are lives. Those aren't just certificates on the wall.
Right.
Yeah, those are actual lives that we saved. And I got to say, we probably saved more lives going on CFRD calls than we saved going to fires. That's probably just a cold, hard fact.
It's true. And, my first full year, 1970, was the highest fire loss of life in city history. There were over 300 people died in fires in 1970. So the last 18 years or so, we've been under 100. A lot of times people would ask, why is that? There's multiple reasons, and some of it is people don't smoke as much. Smoking was a major cause of fires. Now, our fire gear now is so much better. It allows us to get in and rescue people. But another reason is before, when we pulled people out of the fire, none of us knew what the hell to do with them. The ambulances at that time, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, was an ambulance driver. I mean, he might as well have been working for the medical examiner. They weren't EMTs, they weren't anything. So we'd bring them out of the fire and we'd lay them on the ground. Maybe we'd start CPR. We'd basically try to get the resuscitator and in the chief's car and see if somebody could use it. Now, people get brought out. EMS is on the scene. Our firefighters, we have CFR companies on the scene, and they actually bring people back to life. Half of those people would never have survived. I mean,
Right.
we 17 people in the Bronx left, and we could have easily lost, 27, 30 people up there.
No doubt about it.
Had it not been for, members, first of all, going above and beyond in the building, and nobody realizes what they were up against when they were running out of air, and getting these people out and working on. People are brought out dead, and they're alive today.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
In a wreck. So the medical care that we give to the city now, that the fire department provides through our firefighters and our EMTs and medics, is fantastic. It really.
Yeah.
And
Chief, I went to a CFRD run, and it was a summer day. There was a barbecue. Lady had a heart attack in the backyard. She was dead as dead can be. We worked on her. We shocked her. And by the time EMS came to take her away, she was talking. That's just one life. We saved one life right there.
And there's thousands of those over these past 26 years.
Right.
Including our own members.
Yeah.
The first year.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about that.
Rockaway, who was at the house watch desk dead, and the members defibrillated him, and he became our poster boy. He's still alive today. This is why this is important, to have these skills and to have this equipment. There's another person, there's no way he would have survived.
I mean, it 1,000%. It helped save jobs. It helped save firehouses. It's helped obviously save lives. But I'll just be when you're sitting on a call for something and the first 2 box comes in, you just gotta jump out the window.
Put a rush on the bus. Put a rush on the bus. Put a rush on the bus.
I'm just saying, Chief. You know what I mean? I get what you're saying, and I agree 100%. But that one time you're just like, come on, man. Come on.
Better. We've added ambulances, and hopefully they'll continue to supplement our EMS side of the department, so that
you're not hanging around too
long.
When
we first started, there were some, very lengthy waits.
Oh.
Much more than today, much more frequent. I think we had about 2,100 EMS personnel back in '96. Now we have 4,600. So that's a good thing.
And the other good thing is, hold on, Pete, is that you guys we're getting paid. We get, what is it, 3% or 4%? But it's more money in your pocket, for doing your job, for saving lives. So how could you go wrong there?
And if you don't want to do it, you could go to the truck.
There you go. Or you could be the highest paid, guy on the job and be a squad chauffeur and get CFRD pay and chauffeur pay. I'm just saying, if that's what you want to do.
And not get off the rig.
And not get off the rig, If that's the way you want to go, Chief. Not everybody's a studier.
Chief, one quick question coming in from the chat is coming from our friend MC's audio. He's saying there was a brief period when the NYPD considered absorbing EMS akin to Nassau County. Do you recall a battle with them to secure EMS?
I don't think there was ever a battle. I do think we considered that, and I used to tell people, if you don't want to do this, next year all the ambulances will be painted blue and they'll say NYPD on the side. I think EMS worked very closely with PD, and they considered themselves back in the day, the green and white, the veteran EMS, akin to police. They wore those medals up the chest like the police did.
Yes, they did. You're right. Right.
First, when EMS was created in health and hospitals, their first boss came from PD. A lot of their terminology was PD terminology. Cops responded into all of their jobs. So it was, there was a closeness between PD and EMS. But I don't think they didn't fight for it back in the day when Rudy Giuliani was mayor and we merged with EMS, or they called it a hostile takeover, which I guess it was more of a takeover than a merger, so to speak.
Well,
hold on,
sorry.
Pete, 1 second.
Okay.
Chief Pritchett is in the chat. He just wanted to tell you, Chief, that there's no life after the FDNY.
That's what I was going to say.
You're screwed.
Oh, the guy who I keep calling to get a date and he doesn't call me back. That guy.
Now, there's a legend in the department, and deservedly so. Jack Pritchett.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know what, Chief? I honestly think it worked out for both sides. It worked out for EMS and it worked out for the FDNY. That's just my humble opinion.
Now, there's still more to be done. I think it's very difficult here, and it's certainly not like the TV shows you see where there's this huge firehouse, and ambulances and fire apparatus are in quarters, and people are in quarters together. We're lucky we can fit our apparatus in our firehouses. Some of our EMS stations are like double wide trailers. It's very difficult, and it would be nice if we had, the ability to merge further. But really we can't. We have two houses. That's it. We have one in Rockaway, one out in the other end of Staten Island, where fire personnel and EMS personnel cohabitate, and that's it.
How do they get along, Chief?
I was just going to ask him that same thing. I remember when that was another thing that was, guys talked about in the kitchen, was that was like taboo, right? Obviously, they didn't want ambulances in the firehouse. That was, again, I get it, but I was just going to ask you the same question, Chief. How do those guys get along? How is things going there?
I sort of, when people are married, separated, but still for economical reasons living in the same home.
I know it well.
It's probably more like that. I don't think they have everything the same. Say.
Right, I got you. Well,
there's long to go. Maybe we'll get there in my lifetime, or maybe not. But I think they have to continue to move in that direction somehow, and get a little closer. But
get a little closer.
We certainly get along much better than we did the day after the merger. I think everyone has come to terms with it in many ways. We'll see where it goes from here.
I don't even think it's a discussion. I mean, not with those firehouses, but nobody really thinks about that. Like the same thing with bunker gear, right? It's past. Nobody really even thinks about that, because everybody who's getting on the job now, it's just second nature. You go into EMS and that's it.
First coming out, and there was even in the medical field, there were worries that being encapsulated like this, half of the job was going to suffer heat stroke and heart attacks and whatnot from wearing this bunker gear. And that didn't happen. As we all know, it actually, it saved many lives, I think. And certainly saved many people from very
bad burns. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I actually think that it's also good that that a lot of these EMS are going over to the fire department. So maybe, maybe it's something like down in Tennessee when you're marrying your cousin or something. Maybe there's relations are a little bit better or something.
So many of our members started out in EMS. Class had 250, and 50 of them were police officers. Who
transferred over, right,
from the dark side to the fire department. So then it was when Ray Kelly was commissioner. If you moved over, they had the thing changed so that you didn't get, if you were first grade in police,
you lost your time.
Probation. Now you don't do that. So we don't get that anymore. But now we have, so many of our people come over from EMS, and perhaps that will be the new model at some point, that everyone starts in EMS and you have a choice of either moving to fire or become a paramedic. And that's where, salary increases come, depending on what you want to do. If you want to pursue a career more in the medical side, you become a paramedic, or if you want to go to fire, you become a firefighter, or as an EMT, if that's what to do. There's just like being a firefighter, no one forces you to be an officer or a fire marshal or anything else.
Do you ever see? Do you ever see the fire department bringing the level of training up to firefighters of EMT or paramedic?
Yeah, I certainly think paramedic. I'm not sure if that's worthwhile. EMT, I think it is. There's union issues there again. There's every time that's even mentioned by anyone, EMS union sees it as we're going to take jobs away, which is not true. It just trains the members to a little higher level to treat the people of the city. It's just providing a service.
Mm.
It's somewhat costly, but I think if we're bringing so many people in who are EMTs already, it's just a matter of maintaining their EMT.
Right. They have to be EMTs right now, Chief. Don't they have to be EMTs?
Well, to go in EMS, we have two ways to go into EMS. One class is for people who already become EMTs on the outside. The other class are EMS cadets who start off without any training.
I got you.
And that's a little bit longer of a class. So we train you to become an EMT.
And the promotion to firefighter is still the same as it was from the beginning?
It is, there'll be another test at some point, maybe two years from now. I'm not. It could change. It could be that right now I think you have to have 2 years in EMS before you switch over to fire. That could possibly go up because of the number of people that attrit out of EMS. It's hard to backfill. If we do 2 classes of 350 right off the bat from EMS and suck 700 people out of EMTs out of there, we've got to backfill those 700 positions, and it's not easy. So that's always the challenge.
It's a balancing act.
That's why he's the commish.
No,
Oh, that's why it's a commish.
Cheers.
Peter, so I was getting thirsty.
Guy's parched.
He's a little parched. I've been drinking
parched.
like a man.
Very.
All right, so I'm going to cross out 86 Chief of EMS because we've already been through that. 97 AC of Operations, Assistant Chief of Operations.
Yeah, we had something then. Thinking back, the greatest job within the greatest job in the world, there were 4 of us chiefs who were citywide tour commanders. We worked 24-hour shifts, and we responded to all major. That was it.
Nice.
I'll sign up for that.
And veal parmesan.
It was great, and Harry Norm was one. I mean, we had, a good crew, and you went to jobs, and the city was yours. As soon as the sun went down, everybody from headquarters went home. You were the citywide tour commander, and that's it. And until it went to a 4th alarm, 5th alarm,
Mm-hmm.
you were in command. So that was quite an opportunity before I became Chief of Operations. That only lasted for a little while, those tour commander spots, maybe 4 or 5 years. And then we went back to the system that they're on now, where the staff chiefs have a revolving schedule, and every 2 weeks
I got
they
you.
have citywide duty.
What are you doing over there?
I'm not waiting for the commish to be said because if I got to wait for the commish every time, Pete.
Well, no,
Pete.
no, we can't. We're having a little audio trouble tonight, so no movement, no noise, no shaking cups, please, while the Chiefs talk.
When the Chiefs talk. Will you listen to the producer?
Chief, that's Pete yelling at me in another language.
Yeah, that's my version of yelling when we're live. When we're live.
That's Pete bringing me up on charges. All right.
I'm bringing you up. I'm writing you up, man.
Getting lifted.
All right. That's fine. All right, so let's go to 99, Chief of Operations.
Well, you really, as Chief of Operations, you're the Chief of Department's right-hand man, so to speak. And as luck would have it, the Chief of Department was Pete Ganci. And he and I were golf buddies, social buddies, just best fire department friends. And so he was technically my boss, but Pete never acted like anyone's boss, really. He didn't have to. I think everybody knew he was the boss, and he knew how to treat people. So we were always together. You know, we just whether we were working or not working, going down to Pinehurst to play golf or whatever it was. Um, we were buddies, and we responded together on 9/11. You know, that was it. We jumped in a car together,
I didn't know that.
and that was it.
So, tell us about 9/11. What, where were you? What happened?
You know, we had our own firehouse kitchen was office in the morning. You know, you come in the morning for whatever time, 8 o'clock for coffee, and the staff chiefs that would be coming in, going off, would go into Pete's office and talk about whatever, whether it was what was on the agenda for business or personal things or news or sports or, you know, really headquarters version of the firehouse kitchen. And that's where we all were on 9/11 in the morning. Donald Burns and Pete and
Wow.
myself, Al Turi, Jerry Barbara, Joe Callen. We're in Pete's office. We just broke up our morning. Everybody's getting back to work, you know, like 8:45. Let's go in our own offices and do what we have to do. And the building shook. And actually, from across the river,
Wow.
we heard it, we felt it. And, you know, Pete yelled out. I was just walking to my office. He said, Dan, look out the window. A plane hit the World Trade Center. And we had a view of it from the 7th floor in Pete's corner office and my office on that side. And it was unbelievable. You know, the amount of fire and smoke, of course, you've seen the pictures. So we jumped in his car. My nephew was driving me at the time. He took John Sudnick at the time, happened to be working in headquarters. And I told Adam to take him and another officer that we'd need. Pete and I rode together, and over the Brooklyn Bridge, I told him it's going to be the worst day of our lives because I said, we can't put out 10 floors of fire in a high rise, number one. They're already, I don't know how many people dead. That you could just knew. And little did I know what would happen. And this would, you know, so Pete transmitted a 5th alarm before we even got over the bridge. I think Joe Pfeiffer had already transmitted a 3rd on the way there. And we got there and started putting people in the building, you know, that were, so Joe Callen took the North Tower and Donald Burns and Jerry Barbara took the South Tower. Joe survived, Donald and Jerry didn't. And Pete and I got separated. I went around the other side of the building to see what the damage looked like when the South Tower came down.
Wow.
And I never saw him again, you know, and then he and Bill Feehan were trying to, you know, as veterans firefighters that they were trapped after that collapse, especially they knew Lieutenant from 58 Engjne was alive and trapped. And they were trying to...
Nagel.
Yeah, Lieutenant Nagel. Pete sent Steve Masiello, who was his XO, and he became mine. He was a good friend of both of ours. He said, "Get me a couple of good trucks." You know, Steve ran up West Street to try to find some members that were still alive, and so Steve survived, but Pete didn't.
Wow.
Wow.
But
I didn't even know you were there at the time, Chief.
No, I didn't know that either.
yeah, by the time I got back around, you know, and trying to account for who was alive and who was gone, and really, if you think about the numbers, you know, there were 2 5th alarms because after the second plane hit, Pete transmitted a second 5th alarm. We had about 750 people. Just about half of our members died. I mean, it's fairly. Mayor. That's one thing the mayor said that night was the numbers unimaginable.
So, Ganci and Feehan died when the North Tower collapsed.
Yeah, they were busy trying to rescue it, and then the North Tower came down, and where we found them, they almost made it. You know, they were running. They had to be moving southwest.
Right.
Didn't get out of the collapse zone. They got hit.
I never knew that. Wow.
They got hit.
Wasn't that like near the hotel, right? Were they over
It
near the
was
hotel?
south and west of the hotel. There was a bar there on the corner, and a restaurant called
I remember that.
Tall Ships. It was, and they were on the other side of West Street, really, towards the One Financial.
Yeah.
And
We
we,
found a lot of guys from
when you
Squad 18 there too, I
right,
believe.
yeah. When you were there, Chief, when the tower came down, what was it like? What was your experience?
well, I told the story a few times. I was walking around the building to see the damage. You like the old Chiefs thing, get a 360-degree look at what you've got here. And from our command post on West Street, we really could only see part of what we're up against in these two buildings. So I said to Pete, all right, we have people in both buildings. I'm going to go around the building. I'll come back. And I could see that the South Tower was really, the plane came right through the tower. And it looked like we were going to lose the top of the building to me. Not the whole building, but it was so badly damaged. So I was rushing to get back down Church Street, and a guy called my name, and he was a civilian employee of the department. And I stopped, and he was frantic. I said, Gabe, what's the matter? He said, my wife works on the 78th floor of the South Tower, and he had his phone. I can't get in touch with her. So I was really in a hurry. I go, okay, I can't, okay, Gabe. She's probably okay. Not that I believe that, but the phones aren't working. And it took me a minute or two, and I said, just get out of the area, and I'm sure you'll get her later. And I started walking back. I was going to go through the South Tower to come out the other side, and you heard that noise and looked up and said, I thought I was too close at that point down by Century 21. But I was able to get out of the way, grab my nephew. We got a place, we ducked into a doorway, and we were okay. And then as we're trying to work our way back around to West Street to the command post, then the North Tower came down, and it was, I just couldn't even imagine what we would find. You couldn't hear anybody on the radio. People were calling Pete, no answer. We lost half of the people there, honestly.
I don't think many guys even know that you were there, Chief. Yeah, like I said, I don't think many guys know that you were even there at that time.
Well, yeah, I was there the whole time, and then I got back, and we were trying to put fires out and rescue people. We like those miraculous guys that survived in the tower, in the stairwell. Ladder 6 and Tanner from 16 engine. When somebody told me they would, I heard the radio transmissions. I said, "Where are they?" I thought they were in the World Financial Center. I said, the North Tower's gone. There's nobody in the North Tower. So we got them out and thought we would rescue other people, but we didn't, there was no one to rescue.
I tell you, I can't believe that we didn't find, more people like in crevices and voids and stuff like that.
I just said this, Lou, when I was on Mike's podcast. Like, it never dawned on me that I wouldn't walk around the street and find our guys. Like, I never thought that we were going to lose 343 guys.
Subway and the PATH station.
Yeah, somebody in the subway somewhere, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Some people would have gotten out, but not so. And we went to 2 Port Authority police officers, and that was crazy. And we had 7 World Trade Center. It was damaged by the collapse, running out of control. And finally, I said, let's move back late in that afternoon, and then that building came down. And if that building alone was the tallest building to have collapsed in a fire in the history of the world, other than the Trade Center. So
you were there, right, Ruff, when it came down? Yeah, it's crazy.
And thankfully,
it was fully involved.
Killed when that came down, because we had ceased operations for a while, and then we to it, and we stayed there till Memorial Day of 2022.
Yeah, Chief,
what
was what were the radio transmissions like when you were there? Were they
You know, almost like for a time there was radio silence. Trying to think, God, why can't I remember his name? I heard him calling Al. Geez, and he wrote a book. I could picture him. He was trapped, and he was pulled out. He was very seriously injured. Thankfully, he survived. Um,
Early on, though, when like Oriole Palmer made it high up in onto this, I think, believe the South Tower. Did you guys think that maybe you might be able to, knock this down, or?
you know, the plan was, because like I say, you can't put the fire out. The plan was, can we get one stairway cleared in some extent and get the people trapped down? Because the calls that were coming in were just horrendous. You know, all these people that were above the fire and couldn't get down, but they still had access to call. So that's what they were trying to do. The call went out to get out of the North Tower, and many people did, some didn't. The South Tower came down, I think, really before any call was given like that. So we had, Oriole Palmer, we had Ladder 15, we had a chief in the 9th Battalion. They made it up to that.
They were up there, man.
We were there. I believe, anecdotally, I believe members reached the impact area in the North Tower, but we'll never know because the repeater didn't work there. So,
right.
But from the what some building occupants said at various times that got out of the building, where they saw firefighters when they were leaving, and what the timeline was, it's certainly possible that members got high enough up in that building also, and then couldn't make it out. And then we had people that were not yet assigned, but were waiting in the. I know Donald Burns had them in the hotel. A bunch of Brooklyn units were lined up, and when the building came down, we lost all of those units right in that one spot that he didn't yet put upstairs in the building.
I think our guys were lost in the South Tower, right, Ruffy, in the hotel?
Yeah, by the hotel. Yeah, well, like the chief said, if you look at that, there's one documentary I watch every 9/11. I can't stop myself. It's like a 2-hour thing. It's the guy who's running around with the camera, just basically running around, and the tower collapses, and then he pans over, and you see the hotel, and it looks like a V, like the middle was chopped out of it.
Yeah.
Like a slice is taken out of it, and that's like whatever it was, a 20-story building or whatever the heck it was. But I know a lot of guys were in the lobby there too. Guys got killed there, and then guys were trying to help them. And then when the other tower came down, they all got killed there trying to help. Like
they had a lot of people up in the hotel trying to get everybody out of the hotel.
Right.
Some of them, most of them, didn't make it out in time either. When that South Tower came down. And that came down a lot quicker than anybody. We didn't imagine the whole building would come down to begin with. At least no one that told me they thought that was going to happen. But we were concerned about localized collapse, sure. I mean, that was a given that at some point we were going to have floors coming down.
Yeah, we've said that on the show, Chief. I was actually working on my side job, and I was already driving back to the house, and I heard on 1010 Winds the guy said that the building collapsed, and my first thought was what you just said, that the top just popped off, just flipped off the thing. I would have never thought the whole building would have came down, but obviously nobody thought that.
That answered my question. I was going to ask you if anybody had given that thought, like if anybody thought that the towers were going to collapse.
I have heard that there was an engineer or something up on the north end, like on Vesey Street. One of the EMS people that were there overheard this. He ran down. I wasn't at the command post at the time, and I heard he said to Pete Ganci, this guy, whatever, said this building's going to come down. And, Pete whipped his head around, they told me, and said, who the fuck said that? And no sooner did he say that than the building did come down.
Wow.
But
Wow.
the EMT that was there, he was with Chief Perugia, an EMS chief, and they were up on by 7 World Trade Center, where it was set up on Bessie Street. So it was that told this to him. I heard later it was some engineer of some sort.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. So we learn stuff all the time on this podcast. I had no idea that you were even there, Chief. And I'm
well,
really
to get
sorry.
a firsthand account
Yeah, I
of
mean,
Chief
honestly,
Ganci too,
yeah.
what he was doing there,
Yep. All right. So in
The
2002.
next day. Well, hold on. The next day he becomes chief of department, right? Is that the next day?
Is that? Oh yeah, Chief of Department. No.
That night we found Pete, Tom, you're chief of department now. And then I was formally promoted on the Sunday right there. Promotion in the plaza outside of headquarters in Brooklyn on Sunday. So that's when I was formally promoted.
What were your thoughts then? What were you thinking?
I think I was fluctuating between being overwhelmed and realizing that there was a responsibility. I better pull myself together and do what I have to do. People depend on you. So, the whole way Pete was 2 years older than me, and I used to say, well, Pete will be retired. Maybe I'll have it, at some point. I'll be chief of department when Pete is out golfing. No one wants to take over like this. The only parallel I could see is, they swore in Lyndon Johnson on the plane there.
Yeah, right. JFK.
Right.
Suddenly, this thing happens, and you've got it.
What were your I mean, at the time that the department was decimated, what were your first thoughts? Like, what do we got to do here? How do we move forward?
I think we have problems with equipment. We lost so much equipment. How do we replace apparatus? Thankfully, the department, and it still does. We've always had a deep bench. People step up. They do. That we lose great people. You can't replace the person, but people will fill their spots and perform admirably. So John Norman, he wasn't Ray Downey, but he was John Norman, and he was a great chief. And other people stepped up to staff jobs before they would have thought they would ever do that. And they performed the way they should. So the job is amazing that way, in that people are ready. They might not think they're ready, but when duty calls, they are, and they keep it going. So for 157 years in May, it'll be, we've gotten the job done in the city. I really never thought we wouldn't, but I knew there were 500 different boxes we had to check and get it done, and we did. And
Chief Kilduff said the same thing actually last week. He said, when you look back from now to then, I mean, thinking about the day after and everything that could be going through your mind, and then think about where you were a month later, and then 3 months later, and then 6 months later, then a year later, and then 5 years later. I mean, it really is, and it's an amazing thing. It really sets the stage for other departments to look at that and say, how the hell did these guys do this? Because it really is something to be proud of. I mean, to get everybody retrained. I mean, we talked about that with Chief Norman. We lost hundreds of guys, right? To get that's a lot of experience and a lot of training to
Yeah.
get that
We
up and
lost
running.
a
You don't get that up and running.
343. A third of the guys were from SOC at
Right.
least.
You don't get that up and running like this, you know, and all the officers we lost and all the time and experience we lost, you know, just with Chief Downey and Ganci and Feehan and all the, you know, you could keep going on and on. It's just
people stepped up, you know, when Manhattan lost, you know, the companies lost a lot of people. Chauffeurs from, you know, another borough, guys would come down on details and work in Midtown. People were nervous at that time working in Manhattan. A lot of people, when I was visiting firehouses, you know, the nerves were frayed. There's going to be another attack. What's the next thing going to be? And even with that, you know, we had people volunteering to come down and drive in these companies and work there because we needed them. We didn't have to order people; they volunteered to do it.
Yeah.
People who were ready to retire. Nobody was on medical leave the next day. I think the entire job was healed, and everybody went to work and did what they had to do, and brought the job back in pretty short order, thank God. And I had a lot, that's for sure.
what's that?
That's one of the greatest lines right there. Simple. We had a deep bench. That's a great line, Chief. I mean, honestly, we really did.
We still do.
We do, right? And the willingness to just step up.
And I know I visited soon after. I visited every firehouse that lost. And in some places there was like I said, nerves were frayed. There was some angry talk, and people were worried. What are we going to do? You know, what if this happens again? You know, are you going to do the same thing? Are you going to put us all in the building again?
Right.
It was a tense.
I remember that. I remember that.
Scares. They were. Months went by, and people were still quite concerned. But yet, people came to work. You know, they did what they said they would do when they took their oath, and they came to work and they did it. And I'm sure at home, a lot of people got, you know, I want you to retire. I don't want you to go to work tonight. And they had to say, you know, this is what I do. You know, that's what Lee Purdy told me. He was down there every hour of every day. And I'd go down at night, and I'd see Liam digging, and I'd say, Liam, you have to go home. You know, you can't just, you know, he's either there, he's at a funeral, he's this and that. He goes, this is the life we chose, you know, and that's kind of what everybody really felt, that we had a responsibility. And we took that responsibility seriously. And the department, you know, a lot of people try to say they were in charge there, they were in charge there. The fire department was in charge of that site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until the end of May. A lot of other people working there, and I give them all credit. They were all great. But all members were there and in the biggest numbers. And
on their own time.
And now they're paying the price, unfortunately.
Yeah. On their own time.
Number of hours they spent there. That's sad.
Yeah. I talk about stepping into a job at the worst of all possible times, Chief. Honestly, I mean, like, I can't tell you when you said that about guys' wives at home saying, I don't want you to work there anymore. I mean, they had that pulling them, and you had to rebuild. First of all, we had to rebuild not only guys, training, equipment, find our guys, find our guys, give them the proper burial. You know, you couldn't be thrust into that position at a worse time. So my hat's off to you.
Stepped up. Someone asked me about the band. You know, I said the band can't be at all these funerals. They proved me wrong. You know, the band split their members up, and even when they're on the same day, the pipes for the members. It was incredible. You know, it really was. You know, retirees came in, people worked.
Oh my God, I remember all those retirees, Chief.
Yeah.
Every day that I'd see some guy with a helmet that looked like it was burned off his head, and you know, he was 60, 70. You know, I remember seeing Lee Ielpi. Mr. Ielpi was running all over the place nonstop.
Fathers there, and they were all there. Every
Vidge, right? All of those guys.
John.
Yeah, sad stuff, man. Sad stuff.
Sad stuff. It was a tough time.
Yeah.
Uh,
You done good though, Chief. You did. You brought us out.
We did the best.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, everybody take a deep breath now. So,
have a drink.
All right.
Hey,
Let's-
the commish.
Yeah,
To the boys.
to the boys.
To
All right, let's
everybody
talk
there
about your first retirement. Let's talk because you had a couple of retirements.
My first retirement. Well, for some reason I had at that time, if the chief of department was in their job for a year, they got tenure, and there was frequently a turnover of chiefs of department. But somehow I had the illusion that maybe the commissioner was somebody I really didn't know before he became commissioner. Nick Scapetto would keep me as chief of department because I did such a good job. Well,
Surprise!
I asked him in August, and he said, "Well, I'm not going to give you tenure, but I'd like you to stay, as an assistant chief or whatever." And I said, "Well, no, I don't think so.
Here's your hat. What's your hurry?
Yeah.
So I retired, and I went around and I visited again. I went around every night, day and night, and visited all the members to thank them for what they did over the past year and tell them I was leaving, not because I'm burned out or any other reason, but just because I didn't get tenure as chief.
Because Mr. Magoo wouldn't give you tenure.
Chief, hold on 1 second. I forgot to say this, Chief. I wanted to tell you this. A very good friend of mine that is one of my best friends. He doesn't really watch the show, but he heard that you were coming on the show. And he had mentioned that he was down there on New Year's Eve for that December 2001. And they were digging and the guys were there and it was getting close to that time. He told me he remembers looking at his watch. It was 11:48. And you came there with your wife to Ground Zero. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And he said to me that was like one of the things that made him feel like we were moving in the right direction is because we had a chief who showed up on that night at that time when the job and the city and the country was where it was. And you showed up with your wife to shake everybody's hand coming up the ramp or whatever, however we were getting out of that hole that time. And he wanted me to tell you that.
A celebration. So I thought that was, my wife and I thought that was where we should be. Yeah, I mean, you did what you should do. So I did. I told everybody why I was leaving. I left. It was odd. It was, leave so quickly. I had 30 days. I had to leave, and
Here's your hat. What's your hurry?
so I was retired for quite a while. I tell people I was an au pair because shortly after I left and everybody was working. My first grandchild was born, and she would stay with me, and that was good. It was useful. I did a little consulting. I did some public speaking. I traveled. I was good at retirement, so I'm hopefully that I'm good again at it.
Now you got a second chance at it, though.
Second chance, and
So you got the call. How'd you get the call?
Which is why I came back. It never got out of my head. I think
Unfinished business.
I guess I just felt I didn't leave the time or the way I wanted to. So perhaps I could come back.
So tell us about the call that you got then. How did that come about?
Well, when Mayor de Blasio was elected, and I said I didn't have any luck with Mayor Bloomberg, so and he did that third term. I said, "Is he ever going to leave? Do I have to outlive him to come back?" I submitted a resume. I said, "Well, I'll give it a shot." I interviewed with a few different groups, and finally interview with the mayor. And I told him I was taking one of my trips to Italy, and I was in Venice, and the mayor called me, I guess it was the end of April of 2014, and said, "I'd like you to be the fire commissioner." I said, "Well, as long as it's not today, because I'm 4,000 miles away."
I'm eating a pasta bowl right now. Some meatballs.
I can be ready. So I was fortunate, that I got this second chance. People said, you had a good reputation when you left as chief, which I was very thankful for. Why do you want to mess it up?
Well, that was going to be one somewhere down the road. Why would you want to do that, right?
Why would you want to do that? I said, well, I don't intend to mess it up. Let's put it that way.
Did you have an idea of certain things that you wanted to bring to the job with the mayor, like backing you? Was that what you were thinking?
Well, yeah, there's a few things. I was always pro EMS, because I brought them in, and I wanted to do what I could, to make them more a part of the department as I could. I knew that the court order that existed to diversify the department. I've always thought, I say that a week after 9/11, a guy came into the office and he gave me a beautiful framed thing that said, "Still the greatest job on earth."
I still have mine.
I always thought it was the greatest job on earth. I said, everybody should have this opportunity. They really should. So let's work towards giving everybody the opportunity if they can prove themselves worthy of it. And I think we've done okay with that, and I think we have. We've proven that we can do it. And I thought I would be helpful in doing that because I've been around and I had respect for some of the members that knew me. Of course, the way the job changes, I was gone for 11 years. And, half of the job didn't know who the heck I was.
Right.
But I wanted to make that work. And I'd worked hard to make it work. And everything else in the department, I think, having the knowledge of the people and said before, what the members want, maybe always give them what they want. Certainly am willing to listen to what they want and try to do the best we can for them. I think I changed them. People that got in trouble and get people a second chance.
Right.
There's a second chance. And I think some of the people that I helped out became good citizens of this department and certainly worth our second chance. And those who didn't.
Chief, I wanted to touch base.
But
Chief, I'm sorry. He's talking. No, I just wanted to touch base. When I posted up that you were going to be on the show, we had some people who responded to that. Obviously, people who know your career and were very happy that you're going to be on the show. And then we had some other people who, like you said, that maybe didn't look at things the way you were seeing them. Me and Coops talked on the show. We've been doing this for 2 years. If I said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what nationality you are. I don't care what gender you are. As long as when we go down the basement stairs, you're going down the stairs behind me, right? That's all we care about. If you're going to do the job. Guys can't, and I remember when that lawsuit happened. I don't remember when it was finalized. I think it was 2014 or 12 or something like that. That they gave back the time that those guys had missed, right? They gave them back a lot of money, and that was kind of what guys, I think, felt. Where there was, you just said it before. If it was merit and you took the same test and everybody was on it, nobody cares. Right. I don't care. But if you feel like you get handed the job, I shouldn't say handed the job, but you kind of get the feeling if you're awarded the job in a suit, there's going to be animosity, I would think. Did you guys feel that way when that was happening?
The reality is the world we live in, there are many things that happen that we would personally not agree with, but we can't fight. So the judge who had ultimate power here ruled that those folks that got that money he ruled that that was it. So
That's it.
you could either, they say you can't fight City Hall, that old saying. You could either continue to fight that, in your head, or say, well, I don't like it, but that's it. That's what the judge said. How do we make it? I thought my role was, how do we make this work? Whether you agree with me or not, we had to make it work. We still have a court monitor. We still have a federal.
Right. I saw that in the article.
The department is obliged to make it work. And I thought when I was coming back is, could I be the instrument to help make this work at least as good as anybody else, or maybe better? And I had confidence that I could. Not that I could convince everybody.
No, I got that part. I understand it.
But I don't operate in a fantasy world. I knew that most of the members probably don't agree with me. But if I could at least make them see that we're doing the best we can, we're training the people to a certain level that when they get to your firehouse, they're going to be able to do the job, and so be it. And we're trying to recruit people and say, hey, this is a good job. Take the test. Take the test. I don't know what happened for a while, where certainly things dropped off, where there were almost no African-American firefighters in the job, less than when there were when I came in. I don't know how that happened, but the judge ruled that, it happened almost intentionally. The department ignored a certain segment of the population.
Right. That's what I think. That getting back. That's where I think guys feel like. And obviously, you don't feel like that was the case, but the judge felt like that was the case, and I get what you're saying. That part.
So
you have no choice.
We are, and I think here we are 8 years later, after that court rule, and I still think it's the greatest job in the world, even with warts and disagreements that we have in the kitchen, and who voted for who, and who's. It still boils down to a great job, and it will always be.
No, I agree with that.
Right.
Thanks to the fact that even people who are disgruntled, most of them,
of course,
come in every day and do what they're supposed to do. And the few real bad apples get weeded out eventually. You can only hide yourself for so long.
True.
That is true. Absolutely.
But as a guy who studied hard to be at the top of that list, so you studied, it was a merit-based promotion. You have to see how guys might be upset for certain sector of people to say that the same test that you took and I took is unfair to me, based solely on my skin color.
And that's as old as time. I was on a captain's list, and not too many minorities passed the test, and it went to court. And the judge ruled that out of every, I think percentage was every 10, a minority candidate on that captain's list had to be promoted. So and that was back in the 1980s. This is nothing new to the world. And things ebb and flow. And yet, again, we survived that. And we survived this. And it'll only get better with time.
I think the thing is, Chief, if guys don't hear your side of, like, to me, what you just said, like, and again, I'm just saying, years ago when I was thinking the way I was thinking, and what I just explained to you, if I had just heard what you thought, hey, listen, this is what the judge ruled. We're going to do the best we can. We don't agree with everything all the time, and blah 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 blah. It would have probably taken away 90% of all the crap that you probably had to deal with, just because nobody knew what your personal thought was, as opposed to.
Wait a minute, Ruffy, are you saying guys make judgments based on not having all the information? Is that what you're saying right now? Because that never happens.
What personal thoughts were, they would really.
Good point.
I don't know.
Touche.
A political side as most of our members, and I get it, and that's great. That shouldn't come into play with what we do.
Right.
Everybody's got rights, and
That brings me to my next question, Chief.
Wait, I want to just finish off on one
Go
thing,
ahead.
Ruffy, if I may. I had a conversation with a person who is a very dear friend of mine, who's fairly big up in the fire department. And he was talking about our show, and he said that you would get a lot more guys if you guys would be a little more politically correct. So I thought about it for a couple of days, and then I texted him back, and I said, well,
No bueno.
I said, here's the thing. If you look at the table of today, the kitchen table of today and the kitchen table of years back, the kitchen table of years back, I didn't care what color you were. I didn't care what race you were. I didn't care what sex you were or religion you were. Everybody got treated the same way. Everybody got their balls broken. You know what I mean? The only time you got your balls broken more is if you weren't up to par. You weren't doing the right thing. You weren't a good fireman. You weren't doing the right thing in the firehouse. Today, they try to put you into boxes, and, they try to label people by identity. And I think that's actually is doing a disservice to people, where I don't see color. I don't see race. As Louis knows, my wife is Asian, Spanish. I mean, I see people for people. So,
well, it's a narrative, actually. I mean, the country is polarized. Why should the fire department be any different? It's there's no for somebody to say they're a moderate. I don't know who the last moderate that got elected.
Right.
You're
right.
You've got to be on one side or the other.
And hard left or hard right. Right.
Or as he's calling himself a common sense Democrat, moderate, and he's got like 11% of the electorate. It's certainly that way right now, and unfortunately, it's that way sometimes at work. But most of that stuff, when you're at work, you have to, or you should, leave it behind and just concentrate on work rather than. I tell people, social media, use it to say hello to grandma and grandpa, say happy.
That's it.
Try not to
It's cancer.
trouble by posting things that would be offensive and potentially get yourself into something you don't want to. So,
all right, we'll leave it at that.
I got a good question for you, Chief. What
Sure.
happens? What happens when you disagree with the mayor? How does that work?
Yeah. I mean, I've disagreed with the mayor. The mayor was very good to me. He was good to the department. He was more of a hands-off kind of guy, unless he felt I was doing something wrong. I think you always have the right to disagree respectfully, but the mayor has the last vote, the final vote, and all you could do if you thought it was something terribly dangerous or detrimental, that you'd do your best to change it. But in the past, when mayors have wanted to shut firehouses, the commissioners were not always in agreement, but their choice was either to stay and he'll shut firehouses, or leave and he'll shut firehouses. So how can I be there and try to do the best I can with the inevitable, which is firehouses are going to close? And many of our commissioners have had to deal with that since I came on. I think Mayor Lindsay closed firehouses, Beam, Dinkins, Bloomberg finally, one of the 2020 finally closed 5. De Blasio came in saying he wouldn't close any, and he didn't. Rudy actually opened 133.
That's right.
He didn't close any that I can recall, but some have, and the commissioners have had to live with that. So I think you always have the right to disagree with the mayor, but you don't do it publicly, because once it's kind of over. If you want to announce that you're leaving, you can do that.
Right.
You have to have that. That has to be a private discussion.
So basically what you're saying, Chief, is decisions get made that are really not in your hands. And what you do is you try to take those decisions and apply them the best way that you can for the fire department and for the members in general.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes you can change them, and I've done that. You know, De Blasio was very open to listening. You know, and sometimes I want to do this, and I said, this is why I don't think that would work. And he'd go, okay. You know, and that's one of your jobs too, is to try to, if you feel strongly the other way, is to try to give a good enough argument to sway the mayor. But if it's inevitable, now your job is to do the best you can with something that you may not like, and that's life in general. Not everything that happens to us is
Right.
something we like or something we would have asked for, but it comes our way anyway, and we deal with it. So
right. So that's a perfect segue into we talk about the vaccine mandates that they put down upon firefighters. You know, whether you disagree or agree with vaccinations, a lot of guys, good guys lost their job because they refused to, you know, have something put in their body that they didn't want to. So, I mean, what was that like, that whole process?
Well, I think, you know, I'm openly pro-vaccine. I've said that, you know, publicly, so I'm not going to go back to that. I've 3 shots already, and I'll probably get another one. I knew there would be people that would say, I'm not getting it. The city set up this process of, you know, you could put in for a religious
exemption, right?
and there's still a whole slew of them, I think, over at the law department that haven't been. Many. I know some of our members have lost their job. Certainly not everyone that hasn't been vaccinated. There's still I believe, a large number of those people working. Will they get their job back? I hope so. I mean, who wants to see any of these people? I never wanted to see anyone lose a job. When I had to sign that piece of paper terminating your position, that's one of the worst parts, other than talking to a wife or a parent when one of our members is killed. That's pretty much the worst part of the job. So,
I mean, Chief, when you discussed this with the mayor, there was no way around. I mean, again, I don't know all the inner workings, and I tell you the truth, I didn't really follow. I've been out for 2 years, and I know of it, but I didn't follow it specifically. But I do know just from reading stuff, and again, finding stuff at the internet or whatever. But you could correct me if I'm wrong. You know, these guys, again, I know Squad 288 early on during COVID. I think probably 3/4 of the guys got COVID, right? They didn't even have masks at the time. They didn't have any of that stuff, but they like you said, people will do what they're supposed to do right on this job. And that's where I feel when I think about this, you know, here you got guys guys and gals going the extra mile, doing what on the front line, nurses, all that stuff. And then to have that kind of turn around and to your point, I'm vaccinated. I'm just saying if it just looked more political than these guys who didn't want to get vaccinated, that was the only thing.
I really don't think it was political. I think the advice that they were getting was that if mandatory vaccination, not just within the fire department, police department, but industry, health services, if more people were forced to get vaccinated like they were for polio or smallpox or anything else, where they would eradicate, and this was the medical opinion, would more quickly eradicate this virus. And the decision was based on that. Unfortunately, vaccination became political. And it's if you look at statistics, right? The red states, the red blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
And older people like myself almost entirely got vaccinated because they were worried about it. Younger people who already had COVID, like our members, felt they didn't need to. And it was very stressful for folks. Now, I don't know I'm not too privy with what's going on now, is what's the problem. People still losing their job week to week, or is it Is it in flux? The Mayor Adams is kind of non-committal about, are people going to be rehired?
I know it's a sticky situation, man.
It is a sticky situation. And the only thing that I could say is that I understand at the beginning, it was sketchy. The science, we didn't know what was what. But now that they know, I mean, I believe in vaccinations. Now I got both vaccinations and I got the booster and I got COVID twice. So at some point, these guys got to reevaluate what the science really is and say, maybe these guys shouldn't lose their jobs. That's basically all it come from.
I hope that happens. I hope they, let's take these folks back, and if they want to get tested on a regular basis, I forget what it was costing the city to test everybody. If you want to get tested, and if the government,
as long as we're following the science, Commish, I have a question for you from the super chats that was asked a while ago, and I think it's a good pivot here. Rob is saying, sir, what was one of the things you wanted to accomplish as commissioner and did?
And did?
And yeah, what did you want to accomplish as the commissioner, and you did in fact accomplish?
Okay. Well, I think coming in, I said before, I wanted to improve the diversity of the job, and it was I think 7% in 2014, and today it's 25%. And lo and behold, the department is doing a great job. So I think we were able to, step by step over 8 years. We didn't bring 1,000 people in on one weekend. We increased the number of female firefighters from, say, 30 or 40 to 120. That's a slow process. And I think maybe contrary to people can't argue what they did back in 82. The few women that come in now, and it is a handful of women, are doing just fine. There are women that can do this, not a lot. There are a lot of men that can't do this job. I say that.
We say that a lot.
Good point, Chief.
The physical job, it's very, very strenuous, and a lot of men can't do it, and most women can't do it, but some can, and it's tricky to recruit them. Where do we find them? Where do we find women that want to do this job? Certainly my daughters didn't want to do it, and my granddaughter doesn't want to do it.
But Chief, that's all we're asking. I mean, it's in the end, that's all we're asking.
If you can do the job, I'll crawl right down the hallway right next to you. And me and Louie, we're friends, very good friends with Lois. We've had her on the show, one of the first female firefighters. We worked out in the gym with her, great firefighter. And like I say all the time, I don't care if you're black, white, yellow, brown, male, female. I don't care what you are. As long as you can do the job, that's what I stand by. Do the job.
That's really the truth. You're going to get your balls broke all the time, but I mean, that's just part of the job. I mean, that's really the best part of the job.
I'm a born-bred Queens boy, just like you guys are from Astoria. And I'll just say this: if they didn't break your chops on the block,
they don't like you.
They didn't like you. You know what I mean? And they went after my cultural heritage and my everything. I had my Pakistani buddy breaking my chops. I had my Greek buddy breaking my chops. But I think it's just a matter of sensitivity in this day and age. And it's also so political as well. So is there a place for any of it on the job? I don't know. I've never sat in that seat, but I can tell you this: camaraderie and friendship and teamwork is all built through literally going through the fire together for you guys. So as long as everyone's on the same page, no one's a coward, everyone's making that push through the door, I can't imagine. It doesn't matter, right? It just doesn't matter who you are.
Yep.
Right?
Chief,
I got a question for you, Chief. All the years, whatever, 40, 50, 7 decades, what do they always break your balls about? What do they call you? What was your nickname? What was it?
The only nickname I ever had was when we played cards in 21 Engine, and I would get angry when I didn't. Someone knocked, I was just about to get gin.
Oh, gin, right.
That I had a bad temper, but I think I outgrew that very early in life.
Did they have a name for you?
Call you the G word?
I don't think. Well, I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask somebody else if they had a name for me, and they didn't. Maybe they didn't tell me what it was.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't when you were chief of department or commissioner,
Yeah.
but before.
Hell no. Otherwise, they'd be working in a Marine unit or something.
Yeah.
Chief, 2 quick questions, and we'll go to the old school tip. Looking back, what would you change if you could do anything? And what would you tell the new commissioner coming into the job?
What would I change? I'm in a good place right now, and you're always worried that you change one thing and it changes everything in your life, and it wouldn't be as good as it is now. I probably maybe I would have been more forceful to the members down at the site to wear respiratory protection, and I didn't, and I regret that. Because of so many people getting sick. Would they have done it even if I was forceful about it? And the minute I turned away, I don't know. But I don't think I was, I took that seriously enough. I came from the era where we didn't wear masks and we did things differently. So maybe it didn't resonate with me as much as it should. So I would have changed that. What would I tell the new commissioner? Well, the commissioner that's there now is a good friend, Laura, and she was very important to me. I think she knows I've given her advice over the years to, listen to the people out there, and she does. Some people are not trusting of her because she didn't come in the job the way I did or some other people did. But certainly over the past 8 years learned to love the department and members of the department. And my advice is to don't lose contact with those in the field. And I saw, I was heartened to see last week she was out visiting some firehouses and EMS stations and sitting in the kitchen with the members and listening. And I think that's good advice.
I did see that. I saw it. She went to Squad 1. I saw that.
Yeah. So I think she will do that if she gets the job permanently. I think she'll be the department.
Excellent.
Very good.
Oh, all right, Pete. It might be that time. Do you know what time it is, Pete?
You know what? I do know what time it is. As a matter of fact, it is a time for the old school tip of the day, which is brought to you by www.theburnbox.com, where you will find the coolest, freshest firefighter mystery box. It's a subscription service where you get a cool box of cool stuff, firefighter related, every single month. Use the code GettinSalty for a discount. www.theburnbox.com. Okay, now.
Love it. I love mystery boxes.
Now, I love mystery boxes as well.
Who doesn't love a mystery box?
You guys
What's the
know
matter
what
with you
time
guys?
it is.
Sorry, Chief. I couldn't help myself.
It's
Sorry.
officially time for the old school tip of the day. Take it away, sir.
Well, you can't get any more old school than me. So the tip I got was keep the horses well fed. Only, but that is always good. I would say for everyone around, if you think you've seen everything, think again. Because as someone who's, was at the fire at 23rd Street and down at the phone company and thought I had been to just about every kind of operation in the world, I never thought I'd be standing at the base of the Twin Towers as I was. So be ready, as Tom Richardson says, the moment you come to work, and stay ready at all times to do your job, and you'll retire a happy man like myself.
Excellent.
Tommy Richardson, never heard of him.
Who's that guy?
Tommy Richardson.
We're going to wait for him to fully retire, and then we'll have him on the show.
Good man.
Chief, I I appreciate you sitting there and fielding the questions that we had for you, like a gentleman, like a professional, and I very much appreciate what you've given to the FDNY. As a person who loves the FDNY, I appreciate your service and everything that you've given back, and I thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
All right, stay put there, Chief. We're just going to run through some stuff, and then we'll say goodbyes in the back.
Petey, it's your turn, buddy.
Well, do we have any shout outs first? Anyone?
I don't have anything.
Nope.
Chief, you have any shout outs? Anybody want to give a shout out to?
Well, before this, I have a favorite charity, and I do. Before I came back, I was on the board of Friends of Firefighters, and I think what they do for our members, what they've done over
Nancy
Carpone is wonderful.
Nancy and crew, helping people in need, many hundreds of members and their families. I would say continue to support Friends of Firefighters. They only do good.
No, I actually saw something. They were doing a donation there too, so that'd be good.
I talk to her frequently, so I will spread the word. Excellent.
And just for anyone who's listening or watching, you can find them at friendsofirefighters.org. That's friendsofirefighters.org.
Excellent.
Thank you, Petey.
All right. And
no doubt.
Is it Monday? I think Monday we have the show on mental health, a mental health show. Everybody tune in. It's a very important show. We have Ronzoni, Mike Milner, and somebody else coming on. I can't forget. And possibly Nancy is coming on as well.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Yeah, it's going to be important. It's going to be
all
important.
Right, Petey. Yeah. Also important is the show we have on the Firefighter Firehouse Dolls. I don't know if you want to check in with that one. That's the 25th. If you want to see the Firehouse Dolls,
he's got grandbabies. He's got granddaughters.
Listen, we like the whole rainbow of firefighters. We like to get all of them. They're very important.
The whole rainbow.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, gambit.
You know what, guys? Hey, I just want to say a quick thing. Thank you to everyone in the chat for policing the chat, keeping things good in there, and keeping everybody in our community on point. This is our community, of course. We keep it respectful, and I just really appreciate everybody in that chat tonight. Thank you, guys. All right, everybody. Listen to this podcast. Don't just watch us. Listen to us. You're driving. You're at the gym. You want to ignore your wife for a couple of hours. Listen to us on iTunes Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Anywhere audio podcasts are found, we will be found there on any of your players. Also, guys, if you're on youtube.com/Gettin Salty Experience, make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and share button. We are only here because of you guys. And we want to keep getting more great guests like the commissioner on the show. So the more you guys like, subscribe, and share, the more we can do that. Instagram, guys, at Salty Dog Inc. is where you will find us. And the coolest, old school, saltiest fire photos in the game. All right, Mr. Freno's in charge of that. Plus, you get a lot of last-minute info in the show. Again, gettingsaltyapparel.com is how we pay the bills. So if you're interested in some cool T-shirts, hey, when's that new T-shirt coming out, Kev? The Follow the Smoke.
A couple of weeks. A couple of weeks. I got to get
couple weeks.
Tuned up. We don't know what color shirt we're gonna do. So
where do I work? Follow the Smoke. That's the T-shirt. Hey guys, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Stay tuned.
Chief chuckling.
Don't worry, Chief. We're gonna send you one. I know you're excited.
We're sending him some shirts. We're sending him some mugs. We're gonna send him all that stuff.
I know. I can see the excitement in his eyes. All right, it's just some razzle dazzle just lit up there. Okay, guys. Thank you guys so much. Seriously. Thank you guys so much in the super chat. You guys are our number one sponsors and our number one syndicators, and I really mean that. And without you guys, we really couldn't do it. And super chat just helps a lot. So thank you so much for keeping us afloat, guys. Facebook, Getting Salty Fans. That fan page is well over 30,000 people, and it is again our community. No nonsense, a lot of fun. A lot of making fun of us, of course, and a lot of great fire news. You know, it's becoming like a global fire wire with everybody's input on it. So check out the Getting Salty Fans page on Facebook. Guys, if you want to advertise with us, Getting Salty Ads gmail.com. And thank you to our sponsors. We appreciate you. Last but not least, or two more things, gettingsaltyexperience@gmail.com. If you want to email a question to the show, that's also for our Q&A shows. So if you guys have any good questions, and it's not just FDNY related questions, like how many guys on your usual engine or whatever it is. If you have questions about mental health, if you have questions about gear, if you have questions about anything, shoot us stuff there, because we are actually kind of coming to the end of all the questions you guys have sent over the last years. So we want to have some more of those Q&A shows. Also, for our Cockluffs and Cocktails and Cup of Joe and Fuego show, shoot us all your fun photos, helmet cam footage, everything at coopspodcast@gmail.com. That's coopspodcast@gmail.com. And we won't even say what we do with the old lady pics there. Anyway, that is all the news. That is.
What do you think's going through the commissioner's chief?
Oh my God!
Why did I do
am I
this?
doing?
Why did I do this?
No, he's saying these are my men.
These are my guys.
These are my men.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
all right, Chief, just hang loose.
Hang loose. I appreciate you coming on again. Great job. I really appreciate your service and everything you've given back to the fire department.
Chief, thank you for legitimizing the show. We appreciate it.
Very much appreciate it.
And I just want to let everyone know that Chief didn't even see an episode of our show. That's probably how we got him, But
That's true. I had a few scotches before I came.
The man dove in head first, and you got to give him.
Oh, you got to give
him a hand for that.
Yep. Yeah, came in, fielded questions. Love it. Yeah.
All right, here we go. So,
all right, guys, we'll see you on Monday night with Mikey Milner and Ron Zoni, and I gotta get the other guy's name. Who?
And a host of others, and a host
of others on mental health. We're all talking about it, and we'll analyze each other. That's what we're gonna do. All right, We'll see you then. Until then, stay low and go.
All right, everybody, have a good night. We'll see you at the big one.
Cheers, everybody.